It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the ToolShed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey there, before we kick off, I want to share a really important thought. 71% of you who watch this channel frequently don't subscribe. So if you've enjoyed any video you've ever watched, can you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps the channel more than you think, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get. So let's go. That's right. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. The other thing that I would ask you to do is that there is a link in the description for the Builder Freedom Readiness Scorecard. And the reason that I encourage you to do that is that if you've been in business for, let's say, 10 years plus, and there's stuff that you know that you should be doing to improve your business and you're still not doing some of those things, by doing the Builder Readiness Freedom Scorecard, it will give you an idea as to what you need to work on and how to fix those issues really quickly. And after you've done it, takes about 2 minutes, so it's not a huge impost. You will get a report, a score in your email box, but you'll also get some suggestions on what you can do next to start to get yourself ready to implement the things that are going to give you both financial and time freedom, which is very cool. So speaking of that, my guest in this episode is Tas Moulis, and he's got multiple businesses, Q-Paint, Painter Coach, and also Tradiematepro. And the reason that I linked that to freedom is before we hit the go button, I was talking to Tas, and he's been off the tools since sort of mid-2000s, about 2008, which is kind of the goal for many people in trades-based businesses. And so it's going to be interesting to hear about Tas's story and find out what he needed to do and what were the hurdles and challenges that he needed to get over and meet to be able to get off the tools and run a trades-based business, because it's the goal for so many people. Tas, welcome to the podcast. It's really great to have you on the podcast. As I mentioned, you've got about 500 different businesses. Well, three businesses, but one of them, which was Tradiematepro.au. It's
actually Tradiematepro.com.au.
Well,
Mick, yeah.
It's not the first time I've got something wrong, I must say.
Okay.
But of course, you had so many businesses, I couldn't remember the name of all of them. But I think the really cool thing is that business is fundamentally running by itself. You said you sort of jump in and help out from time to time, but it's fundamentally running itself, which is the dream for most small business owners, to be able to have a business where it's kind of making the money while they sleep and other people are being supported in a good quality business. So going to hear about how you got to that, what the hurdles, what the challenges were. But I always start the podcast off by asking questions to learn about your background, your history, how you got into the trades-based business, and what you were seeing to even put a business together like Painter Coach, obviously helping painters, and also the Tradie Pro business as well, which is along the marketing side of things from what I gather. So
Correct.
Where did you start with all of this? How did you get involved? How did you get sucked in?
Well, mate, I'll try and keep it short, but I have a knack for talking a lot. So, mate, like we spoke about before we jumped on, I'm a painter by trade, so a licensed painter up here in Queensland.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't think I'd be a painter. I'm a second generation painter. I thought I'd get into another industry. I saw how hard my parents worked in the family business, and I thought, far out, that's really hard work. So I did everything to avoid it as best I could. But like so many other business owners or trade business owners that I meet and run into, you can't escape the family business. It's in our blood. So at the ripe old age of 22, I began my apprenticeship, so very late in consideration of apprenticeships. and starting the family business back then. I'm much older now, Mick. So started then. As everyone would know, that's been involved in apprenticeships or starting out in a trade. It's not much money, if any money at all. Particularly working in a family business, you're working a lot and doing a lot of overtime. So a lot of hard years. But by 2000, I really wanted to get involved in the business side of it and not just be stuck on the tools. And got involved in sort of the behind the scenes, quoting, book work, way before Xero, way before MyOb, all the exercise books, working out jobs costings. And by 2004, I was fortunate enough to become a director of QPaint alongside my dad, who gradually retired by 2007. So that's how it started, Nick. But I really got into the business because I loved business in itself. I love the opportunity to be able to create something, grow something, and like exactly what you said at the beginning of this podcast. Not only earn some good coin, but ultimately build a business that gave me my time back in the years to come. Particularly when I wanted to have kids. This is all pre-kids. I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to be able to have the time, attention, and money to be able to do what I want when I want with who I want. Really, yeah.
Yeah, awesome story. So being in the painter coach business, and we can talk about Tradiematepro at some stage as well, but being in the painter coach business, you will have worked with many people that are a tradesperson that perhaps were working for somebody else, thought that they could do it maybe better than their boss, and get more money and perhaps choose their clients and choose their working hours and all that sort of stuff. Fundamentally, run your own business because you would be gaining more financial and time freedom, which very, very rarely works out for anybody. But it has for you. So you've built one business with the Tradiematepro, and you've got significant time freedom from that, which is fantastic. But you're also involved with Painter Coach. What are the things that you talk about in your coaching business to help people sort of flip the script? Because it's very rare, as I said, to get the outcomes that you started a business for in the first place. You've done it. What are the things that you talk to your clients and your coaching members about to help them move closer and closer to freedom, both time and money?
Both time and money. Big question. It was something that was posed to me. So I learnt early on to put my hand up and get help. In what I mean by that is, it was about 2004. I got my first business coach, and I don't think 2004 they were advertising business coaches. I don't remember, and I don't think that's what they were called. I knew I didn't know what I didn't know. I knew I was working 80, 90 hours a week and going nowhere and struggling. And I made a fundamental mistake thinking becoming the better painter would make me a better business owner.
Yes.
So, I put my hand up because I'd burnt out. By 2004, I'd burnt out the first time. So that's pretty quick. So 4 years in business. But I was doing things pretty fast. But I heard, because I attended a business seminar around 2006, 2007, the gentleman running the seminar said something that stuck with me that I didn't get for at least 6 months. And I was annoyed that he said it because it planted in my head. He went around the room and everyone was introducing themselves, and it got to me. And I stood up and I said, "Hi, my name's Tas. I'm a painter, painting business, Brisbane, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Tas, I want to tell you a secret. There's no money in the thing that you do." And I looked at him like, and I'm standing in a room, at least 100 people in the room, and I didn't want to look stupid. So I pretended to be a little bit smart. Oh, yeah, not in my head, but I didn't actually understand what he meant because from my perspective, and I share this with a lot of people, business owners that I speak to, particularly in the trades and painters, is I was focusing on being a better painter. So I was doubling down on my technical skills. where I was focusing zero of my efforts was on being a better business owner. Well, I didn't even know what that meant.
No.
But at that time when he said it, I didn't know that's what he meant. It just annoyed me that he said it because from my experience, and your listeners may understand this too, if I didn't paint, I didn't make money. That's the dots. I had, point A, point B. Work harder, paint better, and I'm going to share some things that are probably some people do that I don't recommend. But this was my experience of business. I'm going to do more hours than my competition. I'm going to quote more than my competition. I'm going to do the cardinal sin, and I'm going to drop my prices to win work, because that was my experience of business. And I can tell you now, everybody, don't do those things, because that's how I burnt out the second time.
Yeah.
Because I thought being the better painter, or insert whatever trade that you're in, is the way to build a better business. So that's probably the quickest way when I'm talking to someone and I share with them that story about there's no money in the thing that you do. So for context, I'm not saying there's no money in when you paint, there's no money in building or plumbing and sparkies. I'm saying if that's all you focus on, and you don't focus any of your time and attention on recruitment, retention, knowing your numbers, sales, marketing, anything else, or becoming a better business owner, you will continue to struggle and burn out. I've done it multiple times, and I've seen people do it multiple times before. So, that's the one thing that it took me. I don't know. I'm saying 6 months. It probably took me longer to figure that one out, but it was enough to get me thinking, what is he trying to say? I don't understand what he's saying to me. But he was 100% right.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. We're always trying to bring you information that's going to make your life as a builder much easier. So give us a thumbs up and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. If it only took you 6 months, I think that was lightning fast, because
yes, correct. Looking back, everything goes faster. That's all. In real time, it probably was 2 years. But
but even 2 years, it's like, my point is that it's so correct, but very few business owners, particularly in the trades, get it. And when you were saying that, what it caused me to think of is the E-Myth Revisited. You know, that book, if you've ever read that. But I just think it's kind of like the Small Business Bible, Michael Gerber. The E stands for entrepreneurial myth, the entrepreneurial myth that people think that small businesses are started by entrepreneurs. He says that's incorrect, that it's started by a technician, so somebody who can do the work, the painter, the electrician, who can do the work, having what he calls an entrepreneurial seizure. I call it a brain fart. It's but he basically says that the biggest cause of small business failure is the error in their thinking that because I am good at doing at the business, like the hairdressing, the painting, whatever, therefore I will be good at running a business that does that technical work. So if I'm good at the technical work, I'll have a good business. And he says it's the most fatal assumption that causes the most business pain. So, like, I think you picked that up incredibly quickly, even if it was 2 years, because, I know plenty of business owners, both inside and outside the building industry, that don't get that. And they keep getting sucked into the work. Like, we get drawn in by urgency, and we quite often create our own urgency. And like you said, the painting or the banging the nails into the wood is the thing that gets me the money. And if that is your mindset, that's where you get drawn to. So apart from that guy saying that, because that can't have been the only thing, I think it was a contributing factor.
Yeah.
And how do you encourage your guys to at least get some form of balance between doing the painting in your case, and refining their systems or learning about business acumen, because that's actually where the money is.
Yes, correct.
Not doing the technical work.
Yep.
What have you learnt? What do you share? How do you get through to people that you've got to prioritize learning about business rather than just doing business?
It's It's not easy.
Nope.
Because you're 100% correct. Each of us have our own belief patterns, and we believe what we believe. So, funny that you say the E-Myth. My first business coach, that was the first book he gave me in 2004.
Yep.
And I don't think I read a book since high school before that. So it was the first, and I don't think I read a book in high school from cover to cover either.
Sounds like a very familiar story.
Yes, it's a great book. So to answer your question, Mick, I think when I'm talking to business owners and they're trapped on that proverbial hamster wheel, Groundhog Day, they're running faster and going nowhere sort of situation, and they think by working longer hours they're going to work their way out of that hamster wheel, or they're going to dig their way out of the hole by digging the hole deeper. I have to ask a few clarifying questions first. Because talking to painters, what I find fundamentally is they're stuck is either pricing or performance.
Yep.
So when they're stuck and they're trying to outwork a bad pricing model or underquoting or poor performance. It's usually one of those two. They fall into those two categories. So when I talk to painting business owners, I want to find out exactly. My first question is, what does your pipeline look like? So what I mean by pipeline, how much work do you have booked ahead of you? For example, weeks or months, whatever the number is, I'm not attached to the outcome. Just we need to know what that is. Usually, the business owner that's working a lot and running on that hamster wheel has got a good pipeline, because the one thing that they're really good at is winning work. It's keeping up with the doing that has them trapped. And they get stuck in the doing because they run and win, and they get stuck in the doing. So once I can establish they've got some distance between where they are now and where the last job's going to be at, and what's comfortable for them, whether it's 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks or whatever the period is, then we take a step back and I start monetizing tasks, because tradies, for me, it's simple. If I can give them a dollar figure per hour per task and show them where they're leaving money on the table, they tend to move quicker. Now, what I mean by that is I'm going to pick a stereotypical painting business owner, okay? A business owner that runs 3 to 6 people, is typically doing the admin himself, may have a bookkeeper, but is doing his own quotes, checking invoices, payroll, HR, swims, and everything administration-wise, reading emails. They're probably on the tools 4 to 5 days a week, and they're jamming in quotes 2 to 3 hours a day. Typically, 50 to 60 hours a week. That's what they're working. And then I like to draw a line, Mick, or 2 lines. They've got the front end of the business, which I like to call input, everything to do with getting a client, maintaining a client relationships. Then they've got throughput, which is scheduling and delivery. Everyone understands delivery. That's actually doing the do-do, and that's where a lot of people get stuck.
Yep.
And then they have output, which is, let's call it business administration and reporting and data. And if they're spending 2 hours a night doing that, it's about 10 hours a week. And so the first step I want to get them out of, Mick, is before I get them out of the do-do, because what I find is most tradies, particularly painters, that's the last thing I'll let go of, because their identity is attached to them being, I am a painter, I am a sparky, I am a plumber. It's a little bit difficult to move them out of that one first. And I was the same. I didn't want to let go of that because that was my identity. So I like to go straight to something that most tradies hate doing, which is admin. 90% go, this sucks. I don't want to be reading emails at 9 o'clock at night after I put the kids to dinner, put the kids to bed. I don't want to be doing quotes at 10 o'clock at night when I can't think straight. I hate it. The timing's terrible. I'm exhausted. So I help them identify that, someone in that role is probably going to cost the business an overhead, between 40 and 50 bucks an hour, round numbers. Okay. And 2 days a week, that's about, what's that? 8 5's 40, 800 bucks a week cost to do those activities, which a person who's skilled at admin is probably going to do it in 4 hours and not 16 hours.
And do it better.
And do it accurately and do it better. So once I get the business owner looking at that number and go, okay, so let's come back to operations or delivery, the thing that you do. Like, you're a painter. So let's say you've got staff and they cost you $50 an hour, but you charge them out at 100. Now I'm using round numbers, Mick, because the maths is not going to work really good in my head if I do tricky numbers. So I'm picking really easy numbers. So your audience may charge your staff out more than that. So potentially it's costing them $50 an hour as a painter, but they're charging out 100. So worst case scenario, if that painting business or that business owner moves out of admin where they can replace themselves at $50 an hour and go back on the tools and charge at 100, they're $50 better off.
Yeah.
Straight away. The opportunity cost is unreal. Now, that's usually the quickest win. When I show them that and they go, wow, so I can get someone to do this for X and I can go back over here where I kind of like what I'm doing and make multiple of that, I'm ahead. I go, yes, you are 100% correct. Where they get stuck is they feel like, well, if I do the admin myself, I'm going to save money. But you're not. It's actually costing you $50 an hour to stay on doing admin.
Yeah.
I like to show them that metric first. When they get over that hurdle, then I do exactly the same with them being on the tools to them managing a team. So if they can replace themselves on the tool for someone else at $50 an hour that they can charge at 100, and they can take themselves, the business owner, and I'll fast forward it. And let's say they move straight into and reduce their 30 hours a week in operations and take 10 of those hours a week and move it to sales. And when I say sales, it could be just improving the way they do things in sales. And take that and go learn how to become a better salesperson or learn how to set proposals or actually do follow-ups so they can start improving the value of their services to their clients. So typically, let's say this business owner, it's $500K a year business, a nice small business. And he's only spending 5 hours a week quoting. So over 50 years, that's 250 hours. So for that 250 hours, if he dedicates and he's returning 500,000 in revenue, each one of those hours, like 500K divided by 250, is about 2K. So his return on his investment for his time quoting or doing sales activities or networking or building relationships or whatever he's doing to bring in better business, his ROI is 2K per hour. So the sooner I get the business owner to remove themselves from admin, move him into operations, and they see the opportunity cost, and then I can move him into showing him where the most value in his business is actually bringing in more profitable business, the faster I get them to get off the tools. That's how I explain it.
Yeah. Which makes a whole heap of sense. And as you're saying that, I'm just thinking about some of my experiences, some of my members in Black Belt. And you can give them all of the opportunity cost numbers and they go, there's normally a couple of issues. I love being on the tools. I want to be on the tools. I can't ever see myself being off the tools. There's that bit, and then there's a bit of rationalization. You know, no one does it as well as me. No one cares as much as me, all of that sort of stuff. So I hear what you're saying, but I can't leave sight because no one can be trusted. You know, you have those sorts of conversations. My suspicion, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, my suspicion is that on-site is the comfort zone, you know, and they're so uncomfortable about administration, so uncomfortable about sales, so uncomfortable about marketing, all of that sort of stuff. And so it's a little bit of a smokescreen to me. Have you had any success being able to overcome that? How? Because you can give them the evidence and the numbers, and they go, "Yeah, but." How do you handle the "yeah, but"?
I hear it a lot.
Yeah,
we've just run a masterclass series around Queensland, so I heard it a lot in person. And straight up, my job's not to change people's minds.
No.
So I don't try and challenge people's beliefs unless they say, "Tas, I'm getting burnt out. I'm not spending time at home with the kids. How do I stop being the person that puts out fires on the jobs? I'm the one running around picking up the materials, setting up, dropping off scaff, running between jobs, doing quality control between this job and setting up this job." And I hear what you're saying, Mick. majority of people say no one can. If I'm not there, it won't get done properly,
Yeah.
or things to that effect, words to that effect. And I try and share with them that if you keep doing what you're doing and expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
So if someone out there in the world, out there in tradie world, has done what you've done, then it can be done. So I try and get them to look outside themselves, because you're right. I feel there's a big difference between having to be on the tools and choosing to be on the tools.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
Yeah. No, they're not.
Because they're not the same. Because I've got clients where they built their business where they don't have to be there, but they like being there 2 or 3 days a week. And it's not about the tools. It's about they like being around the guys.
Yep.
They enjoy seeing the finished product, but they don't have to be there. There's a big difference. So if you, as a business owner, if you have to be there, then I challenge clients, do you actually have a business?
Yeah.
If you
100%.
have to be there. And I just challenge, there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to accept it. If you don't want to move into business owner, and you don't want to, and let's make this assumption that the business owner's moved out of admin, because that's usually the one they hate the most. So they usually drop that pretty quick. Once they get over the fear of letting someone else look at their books, they're pretty good when they get out of that. And then when they move into the operational side, that's when they've got that 8 to 10 hours back of their life back, and they may not want to go into sales because it's confronting. No one likes being rejected, and insert all the self-limiting beliefs that people come up with in sales. I challenge you, go, okay, now you've got the time and attention. How about we build some workflows, processes, or maybe a system that this can happen without you. And then it gets them thinking, because usually the pushback comes because they're so overwhelmed with all the tasks, and they're doing 50, 60, 70 hours a week. In their mind, they're going, I don't have time to work on the business. And they're correct. They actually are correct. So they think, Tas, you're telling me I got to do more work. I haven't got time to do the work I'm already doing. So I take a step back before we even get to that point and go, okay, let's get some of your time back, under the disguise of getting your admin sorted to someone else, whether it be a virtual admin, a bookkeeper, someone remotely, or you bring someone in-house. Whatever that happens to be, it's to get that off your plate, to free their time up so they can go, holy crap, I've got an extra 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a week. Now I can train my best tradie or my leading hand or whoever that may be to run the jobs half a day without me. Because I think the fear is they go, well, I'm doing 35 hours a week. I can't go to working none. I said, no one actually says you have to go from 35 to 0. There is a gap.
Yeah.
So that's why I encourage them to go from, let's say they're doing 40 hours a week. Okay, in 12 months, let's get it to 20. You're still doing half day a week. We all know most of the productivity happens before smoker or lunch. We all know that. So if that's the case, why not set yourself up to be on around the job site or whatever, around operations in the morning, and free up your afternoons to work on business activities. So you have to play this game, Mick, where you've got to give them a bit of lead time to get to that point. But if you're cold dumping on it, they think in absolutes, like I can't go from that to that.
Yeah.
That's impossible. You can't. But over a timeline, you can go from 40 to 35 to 30. That's possible. And then 35 to 25 to 20. So it's challenging, because I agree. I was the same. One of the biggest hurdles where I butted my head against was around there's no money thing that you do, was I built the identity about myself that I am just a painter. So then everything in my world was about being a painter. When I had to change that dialogue about I'm a business owner, it created a situation where I had to start thinking differently. And that didn't happen overnight, like you said, Mick. It's not an overnight process. I've been in business for a long time. And I still do it today. Like you mentioned before, got a few businesses. So a Q Paint, fortunate enough that Q Paint has a an amazing team. It runs with me less than a day a week. Mondays between 1 and 4 p.m. I'm on Zoom meetings. The first meetings with management, second meetings with financials, third meetings with sales, and the fourth meeting with the operation team. That's my campaign. But I fell into helping tradies about 10 years ago, and I swapped being on the tools like the brush and roll and spray gun with a computer. And I made the mistake. Thinking, well, sorry, I'll reverse that. My ego got in the way and I was being a dick. And I thought, I'm off the tools. I've made it. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 6 years until I realized all I did was swap the physical tool with a computer tool. Yeah. That's all I did.
Yeah.
I was still on the tools. And I went, look what I did. I did exactly the same thing again. I swapped my identity as a painter to my identity as a painting business consultant, coach, marketing coach. And I fell into the same trap. So I just want to share with everyone, we are all susceptible to it. The thing that we do is the thing that we love, and that sometimes becomes the thing that we become. So I had to move out of that business because I realized, I've just swapped one tool for another tool.
Yeah.
And became a tool. I'm joking. And so, yeah, Mick, it's one of those things. You've got to work with people where they're at, I suppose.
Yep.
And I like to just, challenge people that when they're committed to particularly getting their time back, and they have no time, that if they keep doing the things that they're doing, they're just going to get on a faster hamster wheel. That's all that happens. And then I'll talk about running a painting business is they look for efficiency. So how can we paint faster? We'll get a spray gun. How can we do this quicker? And they try and become efficient at the things that are good to be efficient at, but they have like small percentage of efficiencies.
Yeah.
Operationally, a painter can't be 50% faster unless they're an apprentice and they become a trainee. It can't happen. And then they're focusing on that activity versus if I want to build a business, and by what definition of a business is for them, and I want to get my time back, it ultimately means that I need to attract and convert better clients. And I can't do that if I'm on the tools all the time and I'm burnt out. So there's no straight answer for that question, but there is a process.
Yeah.
And I like to give them like a bit of a timeline, light at the end of the tunnel, and give them a gradual progression. That's how I like to do it. And it fits in with most people, because if I explain the beginning and end of a story and I don't tell them the middle, they go, bullshit. But at least if I give them the beginning and end and give them the journey, they go, that's achievable if I can shave off, 2 to 8 hours of my week in the next 12 months. That's achievable. Yeah. And it usually is.
One of the things you mentioned earlier, the mistakes that you were making was you were pricing to be cheaper, to with the delusion that gets you the work. And so I just want your thoughts on that mindset around charging, because there's one thing, there's one part of the mindset that people unfortunately get hypnotized by, saying that if I am cheaper, I'm going to represent more value, which is a whole load of horseshit. Like, that is so much bullshit. The second thing is that I think they potentially struggle with their own self-worth. You were talking about my identity as a painter, so what is a painter worth? And so around that whole pricing question, what are your thoughts on firstly that race to the bottom by cheaper represents more value and I'll get more work if I'm cheaper? What problems does that bring up? And then the second part of the question is, if your identity, your belief in yourself won't allow you to charge an appropriate amount of money for your, and it's to me, it's not even your hour. It's the value that you give your client. And that's what I was thinking when you said, they trade the brush for the spray gun. So if you've just learned how to do something in half the time because you've invested in a spray gun instead of a brush, you then charge for less hours for the end person, but the person's getting the same result. And to me, it's like, shouldn't we be charging for the value of the end result? Should it be none of the client's business how many hours it takes? So there's like 7 questions in that one question. If you just like to answer all of them, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, I should have taken notes, but I do understand what you're saying, and there was a lot of questions in there. I'll work my way backwards, maybe. Oh no, I'll start with the first one. The first one was around the theory. Let's call it a theory that I had, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only business person that's had this that started in business.
Price competitiveness.
Price competitiveness. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are doing it now, and will continue to do.
Yeah.
So, if anything, I can explain that from personal experience. Working more and getting less never works. Okay, it just doesn't work. You could just think about that and do the maths. But what happens is your business, or if you don't have one, if you're going to get into one, is its own entity. So it has a life of its own. So it requires oxygen and food. They just happen to be time and money. Okay. They're the 2 things it's going to need. It's going to need your time or someone's time or time of some people.
Yep.
And it's going to need money to make it run. So if this business you want it to hopefully get better, or you want it to grow to some sort of level that it's going to support you and pay you more than if you work for someone else.
Yeah.
Let's say that's the minimum benchmark, minimum entry level is you're going to make at least what you would make working for someone else. Otherwise, it's a terrible hobby. You can go do something else that's way more fun. If the business doesn't have enough oxygen and food, which is time and money, it can't survive. It's going to get lean and it's going to starve to death. So if you're underpricing, so if the value of a quote or a job that you're doing requires 100, let's say it's 10 grand. I'll pick some easy numbers. I don't pick easy numbers. I'm real because my brain, no calculator, is a 10K job. And let's say it's 100 hours of time and some material. If you underquote it by 10%, let's say $1,000 and it's 9 grand, it still takes 100 hours.
Yeah.
So one of 2 things is going to happen. You're going to cut corners and you may get an upset client or shoddy work or defective work.
Yeah.
Or 2, you're going to take a hit and your business is not going to have enough money in it to be sustainable.
Yep.
You'll say to yourself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to win another job. Because if I win another $10,000 job for $9,000, that'll fix the $1,000 off. And you go, that's a great idea. And I'm
leading slowly to death.
Leading slow, and I can speak from experience. I did this, and I did it again, and I did it again, and then I had this other theory. What if I work longer? Because if that guy's working 40, I'll work 50 hours. So I'll work longer for less more often. That's a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get a pen and paper out and just map this out consistently, you will see you will quickly be burning the candle at both ends. Or worse, you're going to cut corners because you're not going to start. That's not going to happen. So then your quality is going to drop. And you know what's going to happen when your quality drops? Clients are going to drop. Because once word gets out that you do average work or cut corners, you're only going to attract that type of client. So even if you do sustain it, you're going to lose potential clients or existing clients. So doing more of the thing that's not working rarely ever works. Sorry to be a tongue twister, and I think I said that correctly. I think I did. So maths doesn't lie.
Yeah.
So your business needs oxygen and it needs food. It needs your time, which is money, by the way. You get paid for your time, and it needs money to survive, like fuel and insurances and regos and licenses and all phones, all the stuff it needs. It needs it. So that's that part of it. So dropping your prices, although in theory sounds good because you think you're going to win more work, the problem is you're going to be working for less, which in the long run means you're going to be working harder and running faster on that hamster wheel, which is going to force you to try and be more efficient at the thing that is not going to change the business model.
Which is
Now,
kind of in opposition to all of the reasons that you started your business in the first place, is to make more money and have more time, and then you adopt a business model that gives you less money and less free time. It's kind of it's not working.
Counterintuitive. No, it's counterintuitive, and it's a weird dynamic because I see it over and over and over and over again, and it's not that they know that they don't want it, but they do it anyway. It's weird. But if I was to sum it up, it most of the time comes down to fear, as in fearing that if I don't get this job, so I'm going to chop the price, I'm not going to get work. Where in business, in life, no is a complete sentence. You can say no. And I don't want to go into a tangent about opportunity cost, because the downside of being locked in, let's say you've got a pipeline of 3 months of work that is 10% undervalued or underpriced. So you're busy, and you're going to be busy being busy. You're not going to be busy making money, but that busyness stops you from being able to win work that is profitable, because you have to say no to that now because you've locked into this work that's not profitable. That is a terrible cycle to be in. Yeah. I've got a client not right now, about a couple of months ago, where we identified they're approximately 10% off their pricing. Even though they put their pricing up, they didn't put it up enough. And then we looked at the projections 3 months into the future. We said, mate, this is not going to work. You need to find a way to either delegate this to somebody else, move on to someone else that wants this work, so you can move on to better price jobs, because you're booked out just being busy going backwards. Yeah. And it's hell. There's nothing more frustrating when you can see the dollars and you project forward and go, I can't outwork a bad pricing strategy. You can't. You can't.
Yeah. They're dying the death of 1,000 paper cuts, you know.
Yeah.
It's a tough way to go. I do remember some internet marketer one time saying that if you're going to go broke, you're better off lying on the lounge watching Netflix, drinking beer and eating chips than working flat out and sort of going broke slowly. Like, it's a much more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I've yet to meet, and maybe you too, Mick, I've yet to meet a business owner that doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
No, I haven't met one.
No.
If anything, they know how to work hard, and that may be
their downfall. Yeah.
That's the downfall, because it's I'm definitely not saying don't work hard. No. I'm just saying potentially working hard on the wrong thing is the problem, not the working hard. I work hard, you work hard. Working hard is a great trait to have, because it moves you quicker to where you want to go. But working hard on the area that gives you the least results in relation to business growth, business improvement, making money and getting your time back, it's extremely stressful. And we double down as tradies. I don't know if it's a male thing, but we double down and go, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And you go, man, you can, and something will crack. It'll be you, your team, your family. Someone's going to crack. Someone's going to give. The pressure will blow it off.
Yeah. Never works out well. So I'm really glad that we've had this conversation. We didn't get to Tradiematepro, and I want to get to that. So I suspect we're going to have to organise another conversation at some time in the future to talk about that, because I think, like we've talked about the financial side of things, talking about the lead generation side of building a business is equally as important. You know, one's on the way in, and the other part is keeping some of the money that you get instead of blowing it all.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to have a chat about that in the future. But as I said, really glad that we've had this conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. It was great to meet you. And what I'm excited about most of all is I didn't even know that there was a specific business coach for painters, and I'm glad that we've found that there is. because it's something that I talk to our builders. So, we obviously specialise in the building side of things, the owners of a building business. But I'm encouraging them to teach their subcontractors more about business as well,
Yep.
and we teach what we most need to learn. That's why I became a coach. I need to learn this stuff. I'm not only teaching it to help other people. I'm teaching it to get it through my skull. But having somebody that can teach very specific types of trades-based businesses the keys to building a better business, it cannot do anything other than help the building industry as a whole. Like, we can teach the builders to be better all we like, but if the other trades are still using the old garden variety processes and the old mindsets that just don't work, we're doomed. So it's so good to know that there's someone exists like you. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to have you on the show, and I really hope that we're going to be able to have another conversation in the future and talk about what you know about the marketing side of things with Tradiematepro. That would be awesome.
Most definitely. Mate, I love sales. So happy to talk about sales, whatever. Yeah, and you're right. I fell into this because what I accidentally found out was by help, and this is 2014, by helping other painters, it helped me improve my painting business.
Yes.
Particularly around sales and marketing at the time, because that was my focus at that time.
Yeah.
And you journey through the different parts of business, but and even today, I love working with clients, because the more I'm teaching and showing and demonstrating, the more I actually solidifying what we do in our trade business.
Yep.
At every point. And I get to see, a vast array of businesses. So I get to see how things work, how can we improve it, what can we use in our business. So I'm a firm believer in by teaching you learn. Well, you learn by doing.
Yeah, perfect. As I said, pleasure having you on the show. We'll make sure we've got all of your contact information and the website links and all that sort of stuff in the description. So any builders out there that feel that their painters could do with some support in running their business, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, I want you to encourage them to reach out to Tas and have a conversation, because we all need help. And everything that you've said, Tas, makes complete sense. It's virtually parallel to what we talk about with our business. So I know that stuff works, but it's great to have industry specific or trade specific coaches. So, you've got someone in your corner that knows what they're talking about. So thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. So there you go, folks. The Painter Coach will have all of the links in the description above, so you can just reach out, and I really encourage you to do so. If you're a painting business, or if you're a builder that obviously works with painting businesses, let them know that Tas is there. Share the link with them. Get them to give him a call, because every trade that you work with in your building business that can improve their business acumen and their systems and their processes and their communications and their skills has got to help your business. So go for it. Quick reminder before we go, hit the link and do the Builder Freedom Readiness Scorecard. It'll take you a couple of minutes. You'll be really glad you did. And you'll get some really cool stuff in the email after you've done it. So I hope we'll see you in another episode of the ToolShed podcast. We will have another one coming your way before you know it. I am Mick Horse from Builders Business Black Belt. That is all. I am out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the ToolShed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.